So my topic today is basically why gut health is so important. So I've kept the topic name is all diseases begins in the gut. And this you all would have heard somewhere why we say that जो हम बोलते हैं ना पेट साफ तो सारे रोग माफ. Why gut is, so we always say gut is a second brain. Everything comes finally at the center of the gut. So today you will come to know why we say that, what is the importance of gut health for overall wellness also. So this was said 2000 years ago by Hippocrates, that all diseases begins in gut. So it's that important. So I'll start. So I'll start with a little story of a patient only, so that you understand how we as a clinicians detect that there's a gut issue. It's not directly someone will come that my gut health is problematic, and it's not always that you'll have a gastro issue then you think that it is gut health. You don't have any gastro symptoms, but you may have other symptoms like allergies, lack of immune system, lot of other things. So this patient came to me, a obese patient with so much of bloating, tiredness, muscle ache, and lot of depression, lack of interest in life, frequent urinations, frequent rashes and urticarias. Then he had COVID in the Jan 2020, and then long history of allergic rhinitis and asthma. So if you see here, a lot of things are happening. There is allergy, there is obesity, there is a COVID infection. So definitely something is happening with the immune system for sure. And then because of all these, he's into depression, eating bad food. Okay. And then the upper GI endoscopy was showing gastritis, pulmonary function test showed asthma also, and because of overweight he was having obstructive sleep apnea also. Then when we did the ultrasound, there was, because he's obese, so you are expecting to have a fatty liver also. So there was fatty liver enzymes were raised, so there was fatty liver related disease also. And he was one of the trustees of the hospitals, of very renowned hospital chain. So they did even MRI fat fraction and it was high. And because of so much of skin allergies, I did the allergy test, and we found multiple pollen allergies, fungal allergies, food allergies. See, whenever we have history of allergies, asthma, skin itching, so we do this. So you can see multiple positives in the pollen, fungus. So the immune overreaction is happening here a lot. Then we did even gut microbiome analysis in this case, and we found that his score was very negative. So gut microbiome analysis we do by sending a stool sample, and then you get the exact what type of bacteria you are carrying. So his scores is in the minus, not on the greener zone. So definitely he has a bad gut health. Okay. Now, what we find in gut microbiome analysis report, we find the overall diversity, then kingdom distribution, pathogen distribution, even antibiotic resistance, vitamin productions, neurotransmitters. So if you see here, there is a lot of things where a lot of metabolism happens in the gut. So you get the report which has these results also. Then we find the entire our bacterial population profile and the final conclusion also. And then the metabolite products which are being produced by gut microbiome also, whether they are in normal range or abnormal range, like short chain fatty acids, vitamin productions, everything comes in that report. So if you see, everything here is in the red zone or a yellow zone, not in the green zone. So definitely not a ideal report. Then a neurotransmitter. So we always say that food affects mood, and your gut is your second brain, because neurotransmitters are getting generated and going into the brain. So if you eat bad food or if you have a bad gut, you will feel all the more depressed. So even neurotransmitter levels are on the lower side. So these are the different scores. If you see all the kingdoms, so in gut microbiome it can be bacterial population, fungi, viruses and protozoa. So if you see, all things are atypical here. And then there will be a report which will tell what needs to be added in your diet, so that you increase the prebiotics in the gut, so that the good bacteria can proliferate. And then what should be avoided, what should be eaten. So things which are in green should be eaten more, and things which are in red should not be eaten. So like, burgers, cakes, these junk foods are in the red. These noodles, pasta, pastry, so these are processed food. So this should not be, we should not have. Then what kind of diseases you are prone, that also they will give. So if you see here, the chances of gut, like what, so you can have, see here, moderate risk of depression. He was already having some rheumatoid arthritis, anxieties issues. So all kinds of things we can get in these kind of gut health reports. But I'm not promoting that you should do stool gut microbiome analysis, but I'm just wanted to share this report to make you understand that all these can affect your entire health. So in this case, we did lifestyle modification. After the allergy report, I eliminated a lot of food triggers. I gave him a weight loss diet. So he started losing weight. So if you see here, from 108 kg in next 6 months, he was 80 kg. His body fat went down. Okay. He's, because of weight loss and good diet, now he is not having any bloating symptoms or reflux symptoms. He is having less inhalers and asthma, because we are giving a lot of probiotics to this patient, good plant-based diet. And then because of what he was doing, he was a restaurant owner also in out of country, and he every day he was having non-veg. So when you take every day non-veg twice a day, then the bad bacteria proliferates and you tend to gain more weight. So I told him to at least reduce 50 to 70% of non-veg and increase your plant-based diet. So if you see, the MRI fat fraction went down, his liver enzymes improved over 3 months, his cholesterol went down. So if you see here, everything is getting better. It's not just his reflux or, all the parameters are getting better. So when we think of gut health, every individual is unique. You should ask the comorbidities. You should know what gastro symptoms they have. You should know their allergy intolerances. Then you have to see, the gut microbiome or gut health is not a one-day affair. You are doing something wrong for last 10 to 20 years. And finally, you start getting, developing diseases in various organs like in him. And you have to see here, gut microbiota was affected by diet, then medications were not there, but infection was there, poor eating habits were there, he was living in isolation and too much of stress. So everything can affect the gut microbiota, okay? Not only repeated use of antibiotics, but these are the other factors which will affect. If you're eating so much of junk processed food on chronic basis, that also will affect your gut microbiota. If you're not eating fruits and vegetables for years together, maybe after 5 to 10 years, you will find that you are having some or other issues of the gastro, or maybe allergies or something else, or maybe just a depression, nothing else. So in this case, there is gut dysbiosis in form of bloating, acid reflux, urticaria, and then slowly with depression, he's eating more bad food and gaining weight. So as we start taking the adequate plant-based diet, we start reducing the bad bacteria and we start proliferating the good bacteria. And then we have to give healthy lifestyle advices also. Just doing see, if you're just focusing on food but you're not exercising, then your metabolism is going to go down, your gut motility is not going to be improved. So you have to work on all the parameters, even sleep also, because sleep is something where entire repair happens, restoration happens. If you are not sleeping well, means you are affecting your repair mechanisms of the body, and that will also increase acid reflux. You would have noticed then, if the days when you are working too much and you're not sleeping, next day you have more acidity, or you have little high heart rate, or you will feel uneasy or tired, because your body's repair mechanism were not able to fix up everything throughout the night. Okay, so you have to correct the sleep. Then there was a smoking history, so substance abuse also plays a big role. So when we think of lifestyle and gut health, it's not just one particular thing. You have to think of everything together. And last but not the least, social connections. If you're not happy, if your environment is not happy, then whatever you do, you will end up again going into the bad lifestyle choices. So what is the definition of gut health? So gut health is basically gut health is a state of physical and mental well-being in the absence of gastrointestinal symptoms and complaints that requires the consultation of a doctor, in the absence of indications or risk of bowel disease, or in the absence of confirmed bowel disease. So it's not just absence of bowel disease, it's actually a state of physical and mental well-being also. So you cannot say I don't have any gut symptoms but my gut health is okay. No, if you have a depression issue or if you have an allergy issue, probably your gut is bad. It's not always gastro symptom as per se will define gut health. Okay, so this is the WHO definition. So now why gut microbiome is important? Because if you see, the microbial genetic content is 100 to 200 times more superior than the content of our own cells. So we have more microbial cells than the human cells. So actually we are living on a microbial system. Okay, that much of power microbes are having in our gut. So if you see the ratio here between the microorganisms and the human cells, you find it 1:1. It's not that we human cells are more than the gut microbiome. So kind of gut microbiome you are carrying will decide your entire life actually. Okay, so here there is a, it's in kingdom of microbes from which we are actually living. So imbalances in the composition function of these microbiomes is associated with diseases, from local gastroenterological diseases to neurological, respiratory, metabolic, hepatic or cardiovascular illnesses. So it affects all the organs. So whole metagenome shotgun sequencing have proven that we have double the number of metabolic pathways than the species. Okay, and around 18,000 significant associations or different blood metabolites, fecal metabolites are produced by gut microbiome. So you can see the severity and the how important it is to fix up this, because a lot of metabolic pathways are governed in the gut. So what are the 5 major criteria? Now everyone, after this talk, please ask yourself, are you carrying a healthy GI system? Okay, and what are the criteria, how you will think? So 5 things are: digestion and absorption should be good, absence of GI illness, there should be stable intestinal microbiota, you should have an effective immune system, and you should have a status of well-being. So what does it mean by digestion and absorption? That means you are absorbing well, you don't have any iron deficiency, anemias, you are not having diarrhea or constipations, you don't have nausea, vomiting, all those issues, regular bowel movements, you feel light after food. If any of these are missing, that means there is an issue. Absence of GI illness, so you should not have acid reflux, inflammatory bowel disease, IBS, food allergies, intolerances. If all these are there, that means your gut is not perfect. Then intestinal microbiome. Now if you may not have all these major symptoms, but still you may have sometimes bloating or heaviness. So if you are not having a bacterial overgrowth, if you have a good immune system, no repeated GI infections, that means you have a stable microbiome. And then how you know the effective immune system? Effective immune system will be, like I said, that allergies will not be there, autoimmune conditions will be less. That means the immune overreactions are not happening. Why this is important? Because 70% of immune system lies in the gut. So if there is an immune overreactions or allergies or autoimmunity, it means your gut health is not good. Then status of well-being. You should have a normal quality of life. You should have a positive feeling. A lot of serotonin and production, which a mood elevator, is again secreted by gut. So if you're feeling depressed, your well-being is not good, again you may have an issue of gut health. So ask always yourself, are we having a healthy GI system? So if we have a bad bacteria or a dysbiosis, okay, we will have a lot of diseases which we have already discussed, including liver, obesity, diabetes, cancers and other chronic diseases. But if you have more good plant-based diet, then you will have a good bacteria and good homeostasis. But if you are on unhealthy lifestyle, junk food, outside food, processed food, too much of stress, then you will have more a dysbiotic gut. And then I already told you that when you have leaky gut, when these tight junctions have been breached, and when you have too much of bad bacteria, your cells will get degenerated, you will have leaky gut, then you will start accumulating inflammation, autoimmunity, nutrient deficiency, and blood barrier breach, where you will have more depression, anxiety issues also. So immunity is in the gut. I have already told, when the gut is out of whack, our immune system starts to become confused actually. Why? Because 70% of immune system lies in the gut. So if you have a good gut system, that means you will automatically have a good immunity. Why? Because T cells, we have a T regulatory cells in the immune system, which all actually maintains the peripheral tolerance. And if you have the balance issue, see, if you are going too much on the Th2 type of cells, you will develop allergies, eczema, asthma. And all these Th balance happens by the bacteria, like absence of lactobacillus, bifidobacteria, and more of Clostridia and bad bacteria. This balance will go off, and you will have more pro-allergic cytokine release in your gut, and that will give you. So how this gut microbiome gets affected? There are a lot of influences on the gut microbiome. From starting from birth, a neonate who's delivered from the womb, if the vaginal delivery is there, they will have good bacteria. Then again, the host genetic factor. So what kind of life you are living, the future generations will also have an effect, because there is an epigenetics involved here. Then diet, what kind of, whether initially you were breastfed or a formula feeding, that will also decide your gut health. Then how many times antibiotics you take. If you're taking a lot of antibiotics, your good bacteria will also get killed along with pathogenic bacteria. Then infections, then your diurnal rhythm, like how you sleep, how you wake up, what time you sleep, all that also affects. Then what kind of environmental microbial exposures you are having, and then risk factors for childhood diseases like obesity, allergy. A person who has more allergies or an overweight person definitely will have a bad bacteria, and there will be more chronic inflammation. And now all this, your gut microbiome affects your dysbiosis, Crohn's disease, celiac disease, ulcerative colitis, and even surgeries will affect the gut health. Also, medicines will also affect the gut health. Now we have, what type of diet, what type of bacteria it will produce. So if you're having a lot of high fat diet like burger, pizza, cold drinks, all these things, you will have bad bacteria. You will have more firmicutes, bacteroids will be less, and then you will have more inflammation in your gut. If you are taking more red meats, again this is a bad bacteria which will proliferate. More atherosclerosis means more chances of hypertension, heart disease and all. And it will release this TMAO, which makes you prone for heart attacks and brain stroke and paralysis. So if you are non-vegetarian, definitely you are more prone for all these diseases. If you are having plant-based diet, that means you have a high fiber diet. This causes good bacteria more in your gut, like bifidobacterium, Prevotella, Eubacterium, that will be more. So these are more anti-inflammatory, more anti-anxiety. So you can see how diet affects the gut microbiome. Again, this is the pyramid. If you want to go towards symbiosis, then eat more fruits and vegetables and salads, less of dairy products, and very less of the processed food. If you are having more of these processed food, more of non-veg, then you will have more dysbiotic gut. So this is a chronic disease pyramid. Here you see the fruit vegetables are very, very less here. So Mediterranean diet suggests more fruit, vegetables and whole grains. And Western diet, which is nowadays a very big problem in India, everywhere these Western outlets are being opened in form of different big brands, and our kids and younger generation especially are very much fond of these junk food, which chronically in future it is not good. So now we have to think of prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics. Basically, we have to maintain the good bacteria. So what is prebiotic? So I was talking all the time plant-based. Why? Because plant-based diet has a dietary fiber which act as a prebiotic, like from grains, the beans and leafy green vegetables. They feed basically the gut bacteria. So for bacteria, the food is these fibers, and once they eat these fibers, then these probiotics, which are basically, what is probiotic? It's a living organisms, which are beneficial to the host. So they need good food, which is prebiotic, and then they produce certain metabolites, which is postbiotic, and those metabolites have good effect on the body's wellness. Okay, like short chain fatty acids. So if you see, prebiotics are basically non-digestible fibers, okay, on which the probiotics will feed. So what are they? They are like asparagus, then you have raw garlic, honey, onion, tomatoes, whole grains. Whole grains means like if you are eating white rice versus brown rice. Now, which is whole grain? It's the brown rice, okay? So as much as possible, use whole cereals rather than processed, because then the prebiotic goes down. Then the probiotic, we all know, there are fermented food which has more probiotics, and then definitely we all know, as a pharma company, a lot of probiotics we have with us. And then postbiotic, whatever bioactive compounds will be generated through the digestion of these prebiotic fiber through the gut bacteria, then we will be producing a lot of short chain fatty acids. Now these short chain fatty acid has lot of effects on our metabolism of immune system or neurotransmitter or allergy. So you see, functional proteins are being secreted, and then you have lot of cell wall fragments. So everything gets then metabolized and secreted in the blood circulation. So if you see these probiotics, this does the lipid metabolism regulation also. So obesity is less. Then colonocyte multiplication. So intestinal epithelium also get regenerated and recovered. Then it maintains your immunological responses to the pathogens, and then it inhibits the microbial adhesion. So if you have had a bacteria inside because of contaminated water or something, our immune system is such that it will inhibit those adhesions, okay? Then definitely it will inhibit the bad bacteria. If you have a good bacteria, that will compete with the bad bacteria, and then a lot of pro-inflammatory cytokines will get suppressed if you have a good probiotics in us. So if we see lactobacillus as such, you see these are the different species of lactobacillus. They are found not only in the gut, they also find into the skin and vaginal tracts and urinary tracts also. So kind of bacteria you are carrying will be deciding how much infections you get. So these species actually suppresses these pathogens like Staphylococcus, Vibrio, Salmonella, E. coli, Clostridium. So you can see here how lactobacillus different species are working on different pathogens and inhibiting these bad bacteria, so that we don't get these boils, acne, and then different kinds of urinary tract infections. All that goes down. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, madam.
So like bifidobacterium, there are a lot of studies now coming for H. pylori eradication, for IBS, for constipation, for ulcerative colitis, for NEC, necrotizing enterocolitis, which happens in the infants, different kinds of antibiotic associated diarrhea, for pouchitis and all. So a lot of evidence coming for these different species. Okay, then we have beta glucans. What is that? So basically what they are, they are a soluble fibers, okay, and they are found naturally in oats, barley, cereals, yeast. And basically what they do slow food transit in the intestines. So carbohydrates absorption gets slow and more steady blood glucose release. So this will control your cholesterol, okay. So it helps in weight management, it lowers the cholesterol, it maintains your sugar also, and it's a soluble fiber. So if you have more of these kind of foods, or if you have a supplement with these things, it will help in the digestion. So there are a lot of meta-analysis on beta-glucan that it reduces LDL cholesterol, and a lot of significant reduction in the LDL, total cholesterol, blood glucose, body weight, body mass index, and waist circumference. Then you have fructo-oligosaccharides. They are plant sugars. We found them in the fruits and vegetables, and we use them as a prebiotics also, and they don't get digested until they reach the colon. So they act as a prebiotic. Good bacteria grow on them because they feed on them, and then further metabolites are being produced. So so these, you have now understood why gut microbiome is important, why we should eat certain foods, and what is pre, post, and probiotics. So what happens if there is a chronic stress? When you have a chronic stress, you will have more obesities, more allergies, more leaky gut, more inflammation, and all the symptoms will be more. Okay. So why this happens? Because this chronic stress actually activates your hypothalamus-pituitary axis. It activates the vagus nerve, and then you have brain to gut indigestion issues, more pathogens, less good bacteria, and serotonin production decreases, and then finally excess steroids also gets released. All that affects your metabolism, and vice versa also. If you have bad gut, then you will release less serotonin and more bad neurotransmitters, and then bad mood. So it will impact your mood, lethargy, increased stress. So it is vice versa. You have to take care of both the sides. Now few slides on various disease associations with gut biases. Like if you see intestinal dysbiosis, because it increases short chain fatty acids, bile acids, lipopolysaccharides, trimethylamine oxidase. So what it does, it has an affection on fatty liver also. So hepatic steatosis, insulin resistant, NF-NAFLD progression, everything again starts in the gut. So you need to know all these endotoxinemias, oxidative stress, pro-inflammatory cytokines will be released, and that will again do more NAFLD progression. So if you maintain your good bacteria, then definitely the entire cascade along with a high fiber diet will reverse the fatty liver. Now if you see how all these diseases are connected, so if you are eating bad food, what will happen? You will gain weight. If you gain weight, especially in female, there will be a lot of PCOS, polycystic ovary disease. Now this PCOS will cause insulin resistance, and all this will lead to fatty liver also. Okay. And then slowly you have more hormonal issues, and then all these bad food also does the leaky gut. Okay. And that will again create a state of chronic inflammation. So each and every factor will affect each and everything. So what we have to do, again, we have to change the gut microbiome, we have to change the diet, we have to start exercising, so that the entire this vicious cycle of multiple diseases happening because of bad lifestyle gets better. And patients who have more polycystic ovaries and obesity, definitely they will have more insulin resistance, more chances of diabetes, and they will have more fatty liver related inflammations. Okay. And there will be more hyperandrogenism also. Even atherosclerosis. So there are a lot of atherosclerosis is very important to prevent, because you have to prevent heart attacks and brain strokes. Okay. So these intestinal microbiota basically metabolizes the L-carnitine, which is found in the red meat, and the byproduct of it is trimethylamine oxidase. So why we say less non-veg you should eat? Because this byproduct TMAO, it causes kidney disease progression, more atherosclerosis in the arteries, more diabetes, more metabolic syndrome, more heart attack. So you can imagine, by just unknowingly eating a lot of non-veg, what it does to your body. Then, so you can prevent atherosclerosis again by giving good probiotics along with good plant-based diet. Okay. And then neurodegeneration also happens with gut health. So there are a lot of role of probiotics even in Alzheimer's. If you see here, this state of chronic inflammation which sets in because of bad bacteria finally starts affecting and does the neuroinflammation also, and later on you are prone for Alzheimer's disease. Again, these are studies which have been proven that even gut health affect future neurodegeneration also. And then probiotic for cognitive function. So they have given 12 weeks of lactobacillus bifidobacterium combinations, and they have changed their mini mental scores also, and they have found a significant difference in their memory, cognition, and lot of CRP, these inflammatory markers, triglyceride, insulin sensitivity, everything got improved with only mixture of probiotics. So then hair growth. Again, there was a case where they found there was too much of baldness in a Crohn's disease patient, and they did the fecal microbiota transplant. So what fecal microbiota transplant does, again, it changes the gut microbiome. So now you can see the hair growth. So some GI case discussions now. If you see here, this case came to me, 10-year-old kid. Okay, so a lot of patients, we see that it is functional, it's not that. So this case came to me with recurrent pain abdomen, nothing was positive. All his blood test, ultrasound, CT scan, everything was normal. He was repeatedly getting IV antibiotics and was getting affected. I did the endoscopy and found these small nodularities. You can see these nodularities in the duodenum. And when we see these kind of cases, I do allergy testings, because sometimes the food is the trigger, and I eliminated all these foods, and now child is fine, and it's been like 6 months, no pain. This is another case where there is blood in stools, loose motion. So these are typical GI cases. Okay, you see these ulcers here in the colon. Okay, so this is a milk allergy. Now what they did, they started milk early. Because of early reintroduction, child developed very chronic illness, and I did this in 2019. Now child is fine. It's been now 3 years, and they didn't improve even with steroids later on. And sometimes you have a non-celiac enteropathy, where we have to stop wheat related products. Here calprotectin will be very high, vomiting, diarrhea, loose motion, 3-year child. I did calprotectin, and it was when we found there was a increase in intraepithelial lymphocytes, and we stopped gluten. So there are some gluten free food when we think of celiac disease we allow, like these are the gluten free food which we allow, like quinoa, millets, and jawar, nachni, all those we allow, but we don't allow gluten containing food when we have a celiac related disease or a non-celiac enteropathy. I don't know why it's not. So now, sometimes this gut, when you have an immune suppressed kid, so there are a lot of patients who are on steroid because of nephrotic syndrome and other diseases. If these patient comes to us like a diarrhea, we think of that immunity is less. So I did this endoscopy. Here allergy levels are very high, calprotectin, which tells me that intestinal inflammation is there. I did an endoscopy in 2022, and I found these are the protozoa, these are the infection, Isospora belli. It's a kind of parasite, and we just treated with simple Septran, and child got better. So if you see here, repeated infections, repeated allergies, so there are different, the manifestation is same, that there is diarrhea, but the cause is different, and everywhere gut is affected. Now IBD, how we do? When you have inflammatory bowel disease, they present with diarrhea, vomiting, pain in abdomen. Here platelet will be very high because of chronic inflammation. Platelets in CBC goes very high. It's a very common marker, and there will be a lot of weakness, anemia, cramps, weight loss. Here you can see the deep ulcers, deep linear ulcers. So these patients will have allergies also. You have to give them very light diet. So here I have shown you how gut gets affected in some endoscopic pictures. Now few last slides. So what diet actually does? When we think of bacterial diversity, which we should maintain to make healthy condition, we should have more plant-based diet, because plant-based diet will have more polyphenols, more vitamins, more polyunsaturated fatty acids. Okay, and this will actually produce good bacteria like bifidobacterium, lactobacillus. If you are having more saturated fat, Saturated fat किसमें होता है? Like we have more saturated fat in cheese and these butters, all these ghee, these are saturated fat. If you'll have more this, you will have more bad bacteria. Now, food additives you should not forget, because this also affect your gut. So there are a lot of different food additives you find nowadays in ice creams and different jams, different thickening agents. So you see coating and thickening agents, then artificial sweeteners in ice creams and cakes and pastries, a lot of food colors, then antimicrobial agents, Splenda. Like we think of, we are having sugar-free things, but those sugar-free things are very harmful because they increases the more bad bacteria and they decreases good bacteria. So these food additives we should be aware. We should not eat packaged food because these packaged foods are always having lot of chemicals and that affects the gut health. Then definitely pesticide residues are there nowadays in food, and food adulterants like chalk, mud, mineral oil, all these are being intentionally added adulterants. You can see this word intentionally added. So in a lot of grains also they come nowadays, so you have to be very careful. Even fruits, you should always clean them, like apple and all, you should not directly just peel them because a lot of wax is there. So a lot of sprays, apples get sprayed with a lot of lead arsenate and chemical ripening of fruits. This is being marketed and that will affect you. Different kinds of oil, ghee, who are cheaper oils, like these palm oil, rapeseed oil, mineral oil, these are very, very bad. You should be aware while using that. So these are the factors. So I'll tell you how to maintain and assess your gut health now at the end. So very simplified way, ask whether you have any GI disease, whether you have inflammation, whether you have allergies, whether your energy levels are very low, you are feeling very fatigued, tired, whether you're feeling depressed, anxious, whether you don't have good sleep. All these are an assessment for gut health, okay? Then look for comorbidities. If you are obese, if you have fatty liver, if you have diabetes, thyroid, even that also tells us. Then look for the sequence, how it all started, whether you started having bad food, it was more stress, or it was an infection. So please try to correct all the lifestyle factors. Then finally look for the nutritional deficiencies, like if you have a vitamin B12 deficiency, D3 deficiency, iron deficiency, that you can see in your skin texture, color, the kind of glow you have on skin, everything. And then the mental health, I told you already how depression, anxiety is affected by gut health. So I have to target gut to treat the mental health also. And definitely repeated substance abuse and repeated medications. If you're taking a lot of antibiotics, painkillers, then definitely you'll have a bad gut. And family history also. So clues for chronic GI infections: please rule out H. pylori infections. If you have dyspepsia, if you have anemia, please rule out celiac disease and nutritional deficiency. Check for blood in the stools. If you have high platelets, then definitely there's a chronic inflammation going on. We have to do endoscopies and IBD. If you have a stool routine showing pus cells, RBCs, then probably ulcers are there. If calprotectins are high, then definitely there's an inflammation. I've shown into a lot of cases. If you have a obese, you have a fatty liver, then probably SGOT-PT, LFT, please look for the NASH. These are very silent things which you have to do, and any of these above, then definitely you require a further investigations. So objective assessment of the gut health, we can see for gastric pH, stool consistency, gastro panel test, then we have manometry test, endoscopies, I have already discussed a lot of ulcers and everything. Then we have digestive parameters also, which is not required in every case depending upon the history. And there are various non-invasive methods. So like Helic ABT, this is an H. pylori. Just by a breath test you can detect your H. pylori. This is for acidity, acid reflux. We have 24-hour pH-metry. Then we have fibroscans and pap test, esophageal manometry, hydrogen breath test for a bacterial overgrowth detection, gastro panel. Then we have fibroscan, which I told you. So there are a lot of different tests. Then what are all the different lifestyle interventions? Like if you have a NAFLD, what kind of way you have to do weight loss? There should be dietary restriction of calories. You should have more vegetables, fruits than having a high sugar food. You should have more polyunsaturated fatty acids. So you should avoid butter, cream, sauce, pastries. You should more have nuts, avocados, olives as a healthy fat in your diet. Then 0-calorie beverages. So you should have water. Never ever have sugar sweetened beverages like these cold drink, Coca-Cola, Pepsi. These are very, very bad. Even for your conferences, I will advise you all, please don't drink these things. These are very, very dangerous for fatty liver, for cholesterol, for gut. And please start working on your physical activity. Start at least do some strength training 4 to 5 times a week. Moderate to vigorous intensity. If someone has a GERD, there are a lot of lifestyle change which we have to do, like avoid alcohol, caffeine, avoid spicy food, and then don't wear tight clothes, and take sometimes antacids. So there are lifestyle measurements which we should do when we have these diseases. For IBS care patients, we say low food matte diet, adequate sleep, good exercise. Okay, these are the options for low food matte diet. So overall, how to improve gut-brain connection? So you have to heal and seal your gut. You have to build a better microbiome and build a healthier lifestyle. So adopt a whole food plant-based diet. Consider an elimination diet if you have an allergy. Try to cook your food and eat. Don't eat processed food. Eat fermented food also. Fill up fiber by fruits, vegetables and salad. Have high quality probiotic and de-stress yourself. Okay. These are the prebiotic food. There are different things you can opt for. Basically, if you maintain different kinds of salads and different kinds of fruits, you try to maintain your good gut microbiome. So the food you eat can be either a safest and most powerful form of medicine, or it can be the slowest form of poison. So you should have gut microbiome plays a central role. The microbial genetic content is 200 times superior to the content of our own cells, and it will be established by environmental factors like lifestyle, diet, antibiotic use and infections, and imbalances will lead to localized GI diseases, to neurorespiratory, metabolic, hepatic diseases, and a plant-based diet will be beneficial for human health by promoting development of more diverse and stable microbial system, and lifestyle medicine and good probiotic supplements definitely help and maintain the gut health. Thank you.